Does anybody know who this MLB player is? No. Levi? Shohei Ohtani. So the interesting thing about Ohtani is he signed a $700 million contract this past offseason. It's the biggest contract in MLB history. It was a 10-year deal. Does anybody know who this team is? That is the Pittsburgh Pirates. So, like I said, Ohtani signed a $700 million contract. The Pirates haven't even spent $700 million in the past 10 years combined. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. How is that even possible? I'm going to be breaking down the business side of professional sports. It's pretty complicated all the way down, all the way up to the owners and all the way down to the players. So I'm going to be starting with talking about the front office. It starts with the owners, goes down to general manager, director of pro personnel, and the director of scouting. So with the owner, it goes. He doesn't really care about the day-to-day stuff like with the players and type of thing. He really cares about marketing, season tickets, everything with money. And then it goes down to the GM. This is probably the most important person in the organization. He deals with everything with cuts, trades, um, signings, extensions. He even helps with scouting and drafting players. Then he also helps with salary and does everything with the salary cap. Then it's director of pro personnel. He deals with players already in the organization. He helps negotiate contracts with the GM. He also scouts the rest of the rosters in the respective league. So if there's an NFL player put on the trade block, this person would look out and see if he's fits the scheme and we have good fit with the team. And then he also helps with the salary cap as well. So he'll help with the cuts if he needs to as well. And then you got director of scouting. This person obviously is in the scouting department. Sees if the player will be a good fit. He'll go interview the player, coaches, whatever, to see if the player will be good. That's where I get into my first biblical integration. I said I'm picking Exodus chapter 18, verses 20 through 27. I'm not going to read all the verses, but I'm just going to go into depth about them. So what's going on is Jethro is visiting Moses, and Moses is getting leadership advice on how they should serve others but maintain strong leadership. Moses' father-in-law is explaining to Moses what he is doing wrong in his being a leader. The father-in-law gives him advice on how to become a better person and leader. The father-in-law also brings up how God will help him and be with him. I think this passage helps me think about my talk about how leaders should be in sports organizations, how true leaders should be in the Bible and outside of the Bible. Also, that everyone needs help, even Moses, just like the GMs and owners need help from the rest of the front office and everyone in the organization. This also connects to my second biblical integration. Bible passage I'm going to be talking about is Titus 7. This also connects for my first part. They are appointing leaders in this passage, just like the owner appoints the front office jobs. The verse is since this is the verse. The verse, since an overseer manager, God's household must be blameless, not overbearing, not quick-tempered, not given to drunkenness, not violent, not pursuing dishonest gain. The central part of this passage explains what a leader cannot be. In other words, they should be told what to do by telling them what not to do. This passage connects my talk by showing what a leader needs to be. Connects because they're both appointing leaders and both need to have certain qualities. Your front office members need to have good leadership skills, just like this passage is saying to people about the new leaders. I'm going to be talking about problems within the business side of sports. The first one I'm going to be talking about is practice squad manipulation. So there's a 53-man roster in the NFL, and then there's a 16-man practice squad. So if you're not in the 53-man roster, you don't get the minimum salary of $750,000. You get put to the practice squad. There's only 16 people, and you get a minimum salary of $300,000 a year. And so that happened to this player, Patrick Taylor, and Andy Isabella. So what happens to them is the NFL found a pretty big loophole. So what they'll do is you can play 3 games with the NFL team to get called up, and then after those 3 games, you're out of eligibility. You can't get called up anymore. So what teams have figured out what to do is they'll put these players up for 3 games, then they'll release them, put them on waivers. 95% of players on waivers do never get picked up. So after waivers, they'll just sign them right back to the practice squad and repeat the same process. So Patrick Taylor played 13 games in the NFL in 2021, and he got around $300,000 less than the minimum salary. Same thing with Andy Isabella. There's a similar process in the MLB. It's called service time manipulation. This is when a rookie is in spring training. It's the spring training is right before the MLB season, where every player goes to get ready to play. So this player would usually happen to Chris Bryant and Carlos Correa, those 2 players on the right, and they're ready to go. And the MLB team decides they were going to send them down. So they send them down so they don't get a full year of service time. They don't get a full year of service time. It's an extra year under team control and an extra year basically with the team so they don't hit free agency. So what the MLB has done to try to fix this is they have set if you come in top three in like AL MVP, NL MVP, Rookie of the Year, you get a full year of service time. And so the team will do it. They'll give them an extra draft pick as well to try to like sweeten the pot, try to get them to do it as well. And then another, probably the biggest issue right now is the race issue in sports. So it's more of like not with the player side of things. It's more of like the front office and coaching side of things. So in the NBA, it's not a big deal. The NBA has it's over 70% of African Americans are players, but over 50% of the coaches and GMs are African Americans. In the MLB, it's not a big deal as well. It's pretty diverse sport in the MLB. There's a lot of white, Hispanic, and black players, and it's pretty spread out among coaches and GMs. The NFL, it's the biggest problem. Not many black GMs or black coaches when it's a 60% league of African Americans. So what the NFL is trying to do, they made an accelerator program, which is a really cool thing. So with this, the NFL makes the accelerator program. The NFL lets a team pick one player from the not player, person in the front office from the organization who's somebody who's diverse, and they get sent to the NFL headquarters in New York, and they go under a week training from NFL executives, former GMs, to learn how to become an NFL GM and learn how to interview. So after that actually became pretty successful. That was in 2021 they started that, and there's been 13 GM openings from that, and 8 of the GMs who have been hired have been of African American descent, and 5 of them have been from the accelerated program. Now with the head coaching, it hasn't been as successful, but they're adding a accelerator program in 2024 off season. So this upcoming off season, they're making one because there's only 5 head coaches in the NFL that are actually black, which is kind of insane. So they're going to make that accelerator program, and then let's see, that's when my next biblical integration comes in. So I did this one for 1 Peter 2:17. The verse reads as the following: show proper respect to everyone, love family of believers, fear God, and honor the emperor. So this passage is talking about how you should live godly and treat others. The main part of this passage is how you need to treat everyone with respect. Also says to fear God as well. Another thing you not hear a lot about in sports organizations is about how God is about God or respecting others. It goes back to what I was just talking about, how the organizations manipulate the players. I think it is a very tough job for them. It is hard to live like God and be the person in the organization who makes all the tough decisions. You have to make the decisions to help the team. The verse is saying to treat everyone with respect. Makes me think a ton about the topic. How do you respect everyone but have to cut them and kill that person's dream? I think that organizations can do a better job of respecting players, like with service time and practice squad issues. It still has a hard job. I think there's ways to treat the players better and with respect. The top people of organizations have to deal with so many people. It definitely is hard to treat everyone with respect, especially with the internet and every fan of the team trying to tell you what to do, how to do their job. You do not hear anything about Christian sports leaders. I wish we could hear about this and see how they manage and run teams differently compared to non-Christians. Now I'm going to jump into the money side of things with the salary cap. So with the salary cap, I'm going to start with the NFL. It's called a salary cap. So what the NFL does, they set the salary cap each year. It's usually around 250 million to 270 million per year. And so you can go over it after the new league year. The new league year starts March 13th. But to get under the salary cap, there's things called cuts. It's where you just straight up cut a player and they're out of a job, but you save significant money. This also goes back to the respect thing. It's a hard job, but you have to do it. And then there's restructures. This is where you restructure their contract. You put money into future years or put them into signing bonuses so it doesn't count against their cap. And then there's void years. So void years is like if I signed a 1-year deal with like $3 million, I could put that into 2026 and 2027, just like $1 million per year. And then there's an extension. So like if I signed a 1-year, $5 million contract, I just get extended and move the money into future years. And then the MLB, it's called a luxury tax. It's actually set at $270 million a year. This is probably the worst one in the league or out of the leagues. Since there's only 26 players under the roster each year, it should be way lower. Like the NFL is at 270, but there's 53 players under contract every year. But the MLB has it because there's a lot of super teams. Like the Dodgers have 3 MVPs. That would never happen in the MLB. So, but if you do go over the tax, there is like a big fine. It's like $5 million. It happened to the Dodgers, Mets, and Yankees, but like all their owners just said they don't really care as long as they're winning, which I think it's pretty bad. And then the NBA is like very similar. They call it a soft cap. It's very similar to the NFL, like extreme. But there's only one real big difference. The NFL has like, or the NBA, it's called a soft cap because you can like extend your players on their contract so they don't go into free agency. They can just give them way bigger contracts. Like in the NFL example, you don't see players getting record-breaking contracts as like the third or fourth best player, but in the NBA you do. So they don't hit free agency, so they kind of like try to tamper like huge super teams again, kind of like Kevin Durant. Yeah, that's it.
Um, what's your thesis, man? Like, what's
I said the business side is complicated all the way down from the or all the way up from the owners to the players.
wait, so the business side is what?
Business side is complicated all the way up from the players, or all the way up from the owners to the players.
Would anyone disagree with that?
I don't think so.
That's not a thesis. Does that make sense? A thesis is like, what's the point of conflict?
Gotcha.
This is my.
Well, I would say the MLB isn't as complicated. I wouldn't. I think the MLB is actually pretty easy, but I would say it depends on the league. I think the NFL is very complicated. I don't think the MLB is at all.
First of all, okay, so your hook was amazing, by the way. You did a great job.
Thank you.
And your presentation, I learned a ton because I don't know anything about this, but this is like super exciting. And I think you did have a thesis. Like you do have a thesis. You're like you spoke to, and what was really incredible was you said respect. They don't respect their players, and that's the problem. And then you gave your solution, which is the other side of your thesis. Like this is what they need to do. Here's a couple of solutions they need to do. So if you were to go and give this again, my encouragement would be like just pull that up. Like you're super knowledgeable of the problem, and you gave really clear specific examples, which is a great highlight for it. And then you gave like big examples on a systemic thing. So like you know the content. It's just this is the problem. Here's possible solution. Here's scriptural backing for it. So, but man, you did great.
Thank you.
You really did do a good job.
Joshua, yeah, there's a lot of things that like I enjoy sports, but not many people probably understand things like salary caps and like the business side of things like in sports quite like, and not many high school kids probably understand it at the very least. So it's really very beneficial to hear some of those things just on a personal level. But also I was really thankful for some of the critiques, especially like what Pastor Nathan already touched on in that here's a league that doesn't, in a lot of ways, doesn't really care about the people, and they're a commodity to be cut and received. And even when a player gets signed to a big free agency, it's probably very little of this is championships. This is probably the end goal for them. For many of them, is just the bottom line. And I think touching on like it's unfortunate that we are not aware of Christian leaders in sports, because or if they are, we're not aware of how they're doing anything different. Does that make sense? And I am thankful for that kind of exhortation and like rebuke that you have tons of players who are Christians, tons. I mean, we have a litany. You have entire social media pages dedicated to professional sports or athletes who talk about their faith and are upfront about it. But we have nobody from a coaching, maybe some coaches. We have some coaches, but from like ownership.
Yeah, front office. Yeah.
Nobody is talking about that. If they are, nothing about how they operate is different in any way, shape, or form. And so to like cool biblical integration with the passage in Exodus about Moses and his father-in-law, like great passage, strong passage, been used countless times about leadership and all that stuff. But like also I thought the passage from Titus was even more impactful in that like here's what a leader is who is like cares about others we're just gonna maximize everything, and we'll use and abuse you because you're not a real human, you're a commodity.
Mhm.
So hopefully, one day when you become an owner of some kind of or in youth management, that you would think about the humanity of people, um, and how that impacts people. You know, because I think we have businesses like Chick-fil-A, you know, as simple as it is to say, like, one, they pay their people very well,
Mhm.
like, especially compared to many fast food restaurants. But then also, like, they were critiqued left and right for closing on something, so you'll never make it, and yet they're crushing it. Everybody knows that. So one day, maybe we'll have a different perspective.
Josh, I have one more question. If you could pull somehow like the most influential owners managers into this classroom, and you had one shot, and be like, hey guys, this is my one thing. Think about this when you're running your organization. What would it be?
Who would it be?
No, what would it be? What would you tell them? Good. 5 minutes.
I would probably honestly start with one of my biblical integrations and show them that they are made in the image of God, like the athletes are, and show them like they need to be treated with respect. Like, just don't just cut them. See them as a number, basically, because they just see them as a number and cut them whenever it costs them the most money. Try to show them that they have families and everything too. Show them that their actions do affect them. I think that's where I'd start. Yeah.
So we began and started this whole class with, I think I called it a thesis, but now I'm nervous of calling anything a thesis because Pastor Nathan might call me out on it. But no, like the whole idea that I've been trying to get across is we have a very unhealthy culture. Our culture in many ways is very unhealthy. And we will know what it takes to have a healthy culture when we know what it means to be, anybody, please don't fail me, a whole person, right? And this is one of those really good examples that as much as athletes get paid on a regular basis, I'd love to be paid $300,000 a year. But I also don't have to go through physical abuse day in and day out, just getting beat up and hope trying to be bigger than the next guy and whatever. I don't have to do that, right? So call it hazard pay, whatever. Like, so much of what Josh was saying, like, you got to the money at the end there, but so much of this has very little to do with the money. It's really how you're treated. You're moved here because you cost less here than you do here. Like, it literally is just a matter of what we write on a piece of paper determines your worth as a person. These athletes are not being treated as whole persons. They're being, as Josh was saying, being treated like a number. So this is like, I don't know, every time I get a group of seniors in here, it's like, can we do our presentation on sports? And I'm like, yes, please do. Because there's a lot of these issues that are deeper than just who's winning a game or two and who's getting highlight reels and all that stuff. All right, so here's some of the stuff I would like to pull out. First of all, I'm thank you guys because you gentlemen, because nothing that y'all are saying isn't something that we've already said. And so it's good to have it heard from somebody else other than me. You said that, first of all, who did you say was the most important of all your front office people?
I would
You identified somebody.
So the owner's technically like he owns the team, obviously, but I would say the most important is the GM.
And tell me in like 10 seconds, tell me why you think that is.
They have all the final say in like who they sign, who they cut, who they trade for, all that stuff.
So it just seems like their hands are in more stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That actually answered the next question then. When you say like decisions that are being made, who makes the decision? Like who's the where's the buck stop, so to speak, in terms of like you mentioned, is this there's somebody in that office that says, I don't think this player is good for our team. Maybe he is or whatever. They don't make that decision, right?
It's usually a general manager who will make the owner sometimes, like with the Cowboys, Jerry Jones will, but like 90% of the time it's the general manager.
Right. So that seems to be like that's a point of power, right?
Yeah.
Like in culture we identify choices aren't real. Power isn't really who has the most money. And it's not really whose name, like the owner, I would presume, would be the richest person on that equation, right?
Yes.
But money doesn't necessarily equate to power. It's who gets to make those choices, right? So that's what I'm looking for is like that general manager position is a really powerful position because they're making those types of decisions. and yeah, like these guys already said, the diversity program was really, I thought it was really interesting. We talked about it. I think you said something about it in your paper. Can you talk about the programs in, well, never mind. I won't take the time talking about that. You already, you touched on it. I just want I'm interested in that stuff. All right, that's all I got. Classmates, y'all got anything for Josh? Any questions? You got an expert up here, so feel free. Like, what are you thinking?
Would you say like there are any NFL or MLB teams that like treat the players with respect outside of other teams?
I'm sure there are, but you don't really like hear anything about that. I mean, there's the NFLPA did like a test where it's like they sent out a survey. Actually, the Vikings came first and the Commanders were last. It's like they sent out 10 questions about like player treatment, family treatment, and it was like 10 more questions. But I know the Vikings were first and the Commanders were last. But the MLB and the NBA don't do anything about that.
Yeah, that was really that. So the NFL is the only one that does that.
Yeah,
that was something really interesting where it's like the Josh wrote about this, but like it's a survey that specifically asks the players take the survey.
Yeah, it's sent out from the Players Association to all the players in the league. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, how does your team treat your family? And they'll grade their own team, and then it's like you can go look it up. Like there's all these grades that different teams get different. I think that goes to answer your question. It's like some of these teams in the NFL we can quantifiably say like this team treats the players better than this team over here. But that I'd be interested to see like what other leagues would do for that because that seems something like super valuable. We took a survey like that as employees of Southside Christian School, where it's like, how does it look? What does it look like to be an employee here? Like, what does it look like to play for this particular team? Ty, do you have a question?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, have there ever been like any like athletes who have come out and spoken out against like a certain manager or like?
It's not like more of like they don't like this person. It's more they don't like the rule there. So it's like usually they'll like request a trade or request the release. I mean, there's been times people have come out and just outed their manager, but that usually just ends up in them getting cut, and that's usually it.